Okay, let's talk about single-page applications and what exactly a single-page application is. So I have a little sample one here that we're going to be building. It's got 3 pages, 3 individual screens that is, but they're all within the same HTML file. So spa.html, that's the page that I'm on right now. And as I click on these links, I'm going to be moving between different pages. So home, list, and detail, these are my pages. And I've also got it hooked up so that when I hit the back button, it's able to recognize the fact that the hash value is changing here, and it's actually going back through my history array. But my app is updating itself. It's displaying different things based on this value. All right, so let's talk about how this works. Now I refresh this. Now I'm back to just a basic state here. All I'm doing is showing this one screen. So how does this work? We've got a main element inside of our body, and then inside of that I've created 3 divs, and all 3 of these divs have the class page, and my CSS makes them fill up the entire screen. They each have an ID, so I can target them and treat them as separate pages, and one of these 3 divs has the class active. That's the one that I'm currently showing. It's the one that's on top, the one that the users are going to see. I have got the same content inside each one of the pages, the same list of links. Each page has a different title, just an H1 attribute, just to show that there is different content inside of here. And every one of the anchors has a data target. And these right here match up with the IDs for the 3 pages. So I'm going to be using this in my script. As users click on these links, I'm going to intercept the links, look at the data target, and say, hey, which page do you want to go to? Now, the IDs and these data targets, they're not really linked. It's my script that's making the match between the 2 of them. The data target, this isn't a reserved word or anything. It's just an attribute that I picked. I could have called this anything. It could have been data-bob. It doesn't really matter. It's just the fact that I have something inside of here which says where I want to go. All right, now the CSS for a single page application, one of the main things that you need is a class for page to define what is a screen, what is a page within your application. So by default, I'm hiding them all. They're all display none. Width 100%, minimum height 100%. Now, the min height 100% means that I want to allow for content that's going to go off the bottom of the page. I might want to scroll. Position fixed means it's going to be stuck on the screen the way it loads. So whatever size your screen is, that's how big it is. If I change this to absolute, then I can still scroll up and down. So it's up to you whether you put fixed or absolute. It depends on what your content's going to do. Is your content going to be off the bottom of the screen? If so, use absolute. And then just some standard padding. The other part is this active class. The active class is set to display block. So as I add this class to a page, this one's written after this one in the CSS, so this will override this one. For the 3 pages, I just changed the background color, and then I have some styles on my H1s. I give them a font size and a font weight, and then I've got this class that has a bigger font size and a stronger font weight, and a transition for these properties. So this is something I'm going to use as I transition between the pages. I'm going to invent my own event that tells me, hey, you know what, the page is finished loading, or the screen has finished loading, so let's do an animation. Let's pop this thing up and make it bigger so that the person sees that something's happening when the screen loads. Now for the script. Inside the script, I have an object called app, and inside there's an init function that I'm going to call on DOM content loaded. So when the page is finished loading, when the HTML and the CSS have finished being read, the JavaScript is finished being read, call the app init function, and I'm going to grab all of my pages. So I'm going to find everything that's got the class page, and I'm going to save them inside a property here called pages. Show is a property. This is going to be my show event. This is my own custom event that I'm making up to say when the page has been shown, I'm going to dispatch that event so I can get something to happen. Okay, now, first things to do to set up. What I want to do is I want to add that show event, a listener for that show event to all of my pages. And I want to add a click listener to all of my anchor tags. Now all of my anchor tags have the class navLink. And I'm going to use that inside my JavaScript here. So we want to add the show listener, this show event listener, to all the pages, and we want to add a click listener to all of the anchor tags. So document query selector all, and we're going to look for the nav links, loop through all of them, and I'm going to call a function for each one of them. I'm using the ES6 arrow functions here. I'm passing in, this will be representing each one of the links in turn. I've got 9 of them on my HTML file, so this function will be called 9 times. Each time it's called, it's going to pass in that link. And for each link, we're going to add the event listener, click. And we're going to call the function nav. So app.nav is what we're going to call each time. For the pages, we'll say app.pages. For each, same thing. We'll come through here and call this function once for each of the 3 pages. And I want to add a listener for the show event, this custom event that I created up here. So pg.addEventListener, listening for the show event, and then I'm going to call this function down here, page shown. Okay, there we are. So I have listeners for the show event, I've got listeners for the click event, calling these different functions inside of here. I also want to intercept the initial URL. So when I first load this, I'm going to be coming up as something like this. What I want to do is I want to put a default value so that my app knows which page that I'm on. We can do that with the history dot replace state function. And then we've got a blank object here. If we wanted, we could put data that would be passed along with this method. So they're in the history array in the browser, we can attach some data to that. This is called the history state. Then we want a title, and we want to have this ID in here. So this is what's going to be placed inside the location bar for us to know. When I refresh, there it is. It gets added on there automatically. If I remove it and I load the page, it gets added on there. It's not taking me anywhere. All it's doing is it's rewriting what's in here. So this value will be tacked on to the end. Okay, now I am going to be a little bit later doing the functionality here for handling the back button. And that is actually a listener on the window object. The window object has a pop state event, and we can call a function. I'm going to write my own function called poppin here, and we can write something out here, console.log. We'll just say history or location.hash. There we are. So I'll refresh this. I go to here, I go to here, I go to here. You can see I'm actually having the pop state event. And when I'm backing up, okay, I've got a little bit more work to do in here before this is all fully functional. All right, so clicking on the links, calls nav, does prevent default. Then what we want to do is we want to deal with that active state. So we need to find out from EV here, so this is the links, calling this function down here. The link has the click event, and if we are to take our current page value out of ev.target, ev.target is the link, and remember in the HTML the links have this data target. We want to get that value to use that in our script. And so right here on target, that's the link, and we're going to get attribute called data-target. There we go. This is going to be our current page, so that will be the value out of the HTML. That's going to be this home, list, or detail, and that tells us which ID we targeted. This is the one that we want to go to. So we are going to add the CSS class to document.getElementById current page. That's going to be the page that we are going to, the one that we've just clicked on the link for. We've stopped the link from doing anything, and we want to go to this div, and we want to add the class active. Now, that's great that we add the class active, but if we look at this, active is here. Let's say we clicked on this list link. That means we've added it here as well, but we've got it in both places. So we want to get rid of this one as well. So back in here, and just before we add it to the other one, what we'll do is, we will find the element on the page. There should only ever be one. Find that one and remove the class active from it. So this would remove it from the home, and this would add it to whichever link that we clicked on. So the div for link or the div for details, whichever one we clicked on, that one's going to be showing up there. Now we want to change what's written in the location bar as well, so we're going to do the same thing as this, almost. Instead of replace state, we don't want to replace the current entry. What we want to do is we want to add a new entry. Instead of home, it's going to be current page. So current page is the value, and then inside here, instead of hash mark home, it's going to be hashtag and then current page. So I'm going to use a template string here, hash mark, and then my variable current page. There we go. So we've switched the active classes, and we've changed what's written in the location bar. So let's go and test this out. I click on list. This should take me to the list screen, hide the home screen, show the list screen, and change what's written up here. Great. There we go. And actually what we'll do is we can do hash change as well. That's probably going to be a better event for us. Home list. Okay, so we're not getting that written up inside there. History push state. Current page should be written up there. Test this out. Okay, no, we're not getting that. So query selector, oh yes, right there. We need the class there. That's what we were missing. There we go. Now we're moving between them, and this is changing. There we go. And clicking back, we can see the back button is working. It's stepping backwards through our history array. So that was the part that we were missing, was the selector, the class selector for query selector all. Okay, we have this all working now for the navigation back and forth. Now let's take a look at this show event. That's something else that we wanted to do. We wanted to say, hey, you know what? Let's tell the app that we've just gone to the list page, or we've just gone to the detail, or we've just gone to the home page. So, same thing as we did before. Let's go get current page. So this is the page that we just moved to, and we're going to dispatch on that div this show event that we created up here. So this right here, this is an event object, and we're dispatching the event object from the div that we just went to. And when that happens to one of the divs, we're going to call page shown down here. So let's write that out. ev.target will be the page.id just shown. There, just shown, just shown. Home was just shown, list was just shown. So we have our link. We're clicking on the links. That's a click event. And then we are dispatching this show event. So we're triggering something else in our code to run through this dispatch event. So it's up to us now what we want to do. I have the animation. We could animate this h1 tag when we get here just to show that something is happening instead of a console log statement. ev.target, that is the div. So ev.target.query selector. Let's find the h1 tag inside there. I'll put that in a variable. And then we can say h1.classlist.add big. So there's the big. And just for fun, let's remove it after, let's say after a second, we'll remove that class big. So do a set timeout. We're going to run a function, and inside that function, we're going to pass in the h1 tag to that, and we'll say h.classlist.remove. Sorry, my computer's being a little bit laggy here. There we go. Big. And we want this to run after 1.2 seconds, and the h1 is going to be passed as an argument into here. Okay, so I'll refresh this, go to detail, it gets big, and then after 1.2 seconds it shrinks it back down. Detail, list, home, shrinks it back down. And I can do the back button. Back to list, back to detail. Okay, so that's the part that we're missing now. We're moving back between these, but we're not actually changing what's going on. So let's go back to pop state event, detail, list, and then back, detail. So the pop state event is firing, and that's this one down here. So this is what we need to handle now. What we need to do is we need to simulate all the stuff that we're doing in the nav function. Now we don't have the proper event to pass in here, but what we can do is we can take this value right here. We can get that and use that to say, okay, this is the page that we're on. Oops, sorry, not document, it's the location.hash, that's the value, and we're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to strip out the hash mark, or did I do it before? Maybe I'm just misremembering. So in my location bar, the hash value is this part right here, including the hash mark. So we want to take this and remove the hash mark from that. We're left with just detail. And that's what this value is going to be. And then that will be equivalent to what we're doing here. We're getting current page from the data target. Here I'm going to the location hash and I'm stripping off this part. This is going to be my current page. We're going to remove that and do the same sort of things that we did here. So active remove, that one when we hit back. Yes, we want to find the one that has active and remove it. We want to get the one that has the hash and add active to it. We could console log hash if we wanted, and then push state. No, we don't want to do that because we've just stepped back in history. So we're not going to do this again. We don't want to add it in because we've already changed the location. And then dispatch show. Sure, why not? All right, let's refresh. So we're back to home. List, detail, home. So there we go. So we're on home, detail, and list are the two previous entries. So if I hit back, there's detail, and there's list. And we can see that the shown events are firing as well. So there, we've built an entire single page application. We're not doing much on the page, but we have navigation control. We've got the back button working. We've got the links working. We're staying on the same HTML, and we're just swapping out divs. We're changing display block, display none to show and hide different divs. Okay, so that is what a single page application is. I hope that answers the question for you. I'm going to leave a copy of the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that I've written here as code gists and put them as links in the video. Thanks for watching. If you have any further questions, please leave them in the comments.